there were three large takeaways from the panel. Number one takeaway was that each company that starts with an LPO addresses it somewhat differently. So one of our panelists was very personal about it, got heavily involved personally. The other panelist was a Six Sigma black belt and spent a lot of time using process to approach how he worked with us as an LPO. The big takeaway there was each company addresses it differently. The key is to ask the prospective provider, to ask the LPO company what the best way to work is, how to get started. The second takeaway was that all of the companies considering LPO should ask about the people at the LPO. I think the big learning was ask the provider how it is they keep their people, how do they motivate their people. And that was kind of a surprise that we spent so much time there, that a lot of people forget to ask, well, how is it that you're able to keep 850 people loving what they do and enthusiastic and excited? And we thought that was a very important question. The third takeaway was that law firms will work with LPOs, but they absolutely will need to be told to work with LPOs, and the client needs to drive that. Law firms on their own, absent being asked, are not going to offer LPO as a solution to their clients, even though many of them are happy to use an LPO when asked and when pushed by a client. There were a couple of major trends in the industry that really came out in this session. Number one was that the nature of the questions has changed. LPO as a solution for large and small corporate legal departments has really become accepted. So the questions were less about, is it safe, and is it legal, and is it ethical, and how do I assure quality? Those gating items were taken for granted in the session, so people seem to accept that the better providers would be able to address all of those questions. What they really wanted to focus on was two things. Number one, how do I get started? What does that process look like? How do I benchmark whether it's working? How do I determine how much I'm saving? So very detailed thoughts and questions around, once I've decided I'm going to use LPO, how does it work? And then the other question was, is it right for me? And if so, what type of provider do I need? So some of the smaller companies wanted to know if they could work with a Pangea3 Thomson Reuters. Some of the larger companies wanted to know, well, how do you benchmark the difference between going with a large provider versus a small provider? And we spent a lot of time talking about how there usually is a match. A large company will usually work with a Pangea3 because we're a large provider and part of Thomson Reuters. Some of the smaller companies, the NGOs in the room, really learn that they're best served, if at all, by the smaller providers who can be more custom and who are used to working with much smaller bite sizes of engagements. The one piece of information we really didn't cover in our session dealt with the breadth of the solutions that we're able to offer, and that some of the larger clients of a Pangea3 Thomson Reuters really avail themselves of. So we spent an awful lot of time talking about what Caterpillar and Cognizant Technologies use Pangea3 for, which are corporate services and intellectual property services. We spent less time dealing with litigation and e-discovery, and less time dealing with governance, risk, and compliance services. And equally important, we didn't really cover the scope of solution, the fact that a Pangea3 and a Thomson Reuters together can come in, take tools and databases, take people, integrate them, and solve very complex problems for very large corporations. So I think what I would have liked the audience to know is, for a lot of our clients, we build solutions, and we don't just offer a menu of services. We come in, we analyze a problem together with our sister companies at Thomson Reuters, and we customize very complicated solutions to very complicated problems.